r/pettyrevenge nephew blocked my driveway for months, so I bought the house behind him. The sound of my alarm clock at 6:30 a.m. used to be the worst part of my day. Now it's the sight of Tyler's massive red pickup truck stretched across my entire driveway like he owns the damn place. I stand at my kitchen window, coffee mug trembling in my hand, watching my 22-year-old nephew climb out of his truck with that same cocky smirk he's worn since he was 12 and convinced he could get away with anything. The worst part? He's been right about that for way too long. Not today, I mutter, grabbing my keys and marching outside in my bathrobe. The morning air bites at my skin, but the anger burning in my chest keeps me warm. Tyler. I call out as he saunters toward the rental house next door, the same rental house his parents helped him get because Tyler just needs a chance to prove himself. He turns around, and I swear the kid has the audacity to look annoyed that I'm interrupting his morning routine. His morning routine. The one where he blocks my driveway every single night and acts surprised when I have the nerve to need access to my own property. Oh, hey Uncle Mike. He doesn't even try to sound apologetic. What's up? What's up? I gesture wildly at his truck. What's up is that I've asked you probably 50 times in the past 4 months to stop parking across my driveway. I have to be at the construction site by 7:30, and I can't get my truck out. Tyler glances at his vehicle like he's seeing it for the first time. Oh, that. Yeah, sorry, I was running late last night and there wasn't anywhere else to park. It's the same excuse every time, and we both know it's bullshit. His street has plenty of parking, he just doesn't want to walk an extra 20 feet to his front door. Instead, he'd rather make his uncle late for work and block the only access point to my property. Tyler, this is serious. What if there's an emergency? What if an ambulance needs to get to my house? He shrugs. Actually shrugs. I mean, they could probably squeeze by. I stare at him, wondering how my sister raised such an entitled little prince. This is the same kid who used to spend summers at my house, who I taught to fish and throw a baseball. Now he can't even show me basic respect. Just move the truck, Tyler. Please. Sure. He makes no move toward his vehicle. I'll get to it in a minute. I just need to grab some breakfast first. My jaw clenches so hard I'm surprised my teeth don't crack. I need to leave now. Okay, chill out. Tyler finally walks toward his truck, moving with the speed of molasses in January. He's enjoying this. The little sociopath is actually enjoying making me late, making me beg, making me stand in my bathrobe on my own property asking for basic human decency. As he finally moves his truck with exaggerated slowness, I realize something that chills me more than the morning air: this isn't going to stop. Tyler has figured out that he can push me around with zero consequences, and he's going to keep doing it until someone makes him stop. Standing in my driveway, watching my nephew disappear into his house without so much as an apology, I make a decision that will change everything. This ends now. The next morning brings more of the same. Tyler's truck sprawls across my driveway like a sleeping beast, and I feel that familiar surge of rage mixed with helplessness. But this time, I'm armed with my phone camera. Click evidence photo number 1. I document everything now: the time, the date, the exact position of his truck. My lawyer friend Jim told me that if I want to involve the police or a towing company, I need proof of a pattern. Well, Tyler's giving me plenty of that. After our usual dance of me asking, him stalling, and me being 20 minutes late to the job site, I decide it's time to escalate. I call my sister Rebecca during my lunch break. Mike, I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding, she says before I've even finished explaining. Tyler's still adjusting to living on his own. Beck, he's been doing this for 4 months. How long does it take to adjust to not blocking someone's driveway? You know how boys are at that age. They don't think. I pinch the bridge of my nose, feeling a headache building. This isn't about thinking. Yesterday he told me I should just leave for work earlier if it's such a big deal. There's a pause. He said that. Word for word. And when I explained that I shouldn't have to rearrange my entire schedule around his parking choices, he laughed and said maybe I need to learn to be more flexible. Rebecca sighs. Let me talk to David about it. We'll have a conversation with Tyler. But I can already hear it in her voice, that tone parents get when they're going to have a conversation that's really just a gentle suggestion wrapped in excuses. Tyler's been getting those his whole life, and look how that turned out. That evening, I'm proven right. Around 8 p.m., David shows up at my door looking like he'd rather be anywhere else on earth. Mike, buddy, Rebecca told me about the parking situation. Situation. I invite him in, but he stays on the porch. Apparently this is going to be a quick, diplomatic mission. Look, I talked to Tyler. He feels like maybe there's been some miscommunication. He says he's only parked there a few times when there was absolutely nowhere else to go. I pull out my phone and show him the photos from the past week. David, this is every single night. Look at the timestamps. David barely glances at the screen. I'm sure you guys can work something out. Tyler's a good kid, he's going through a tough time right now. A tough time? He lost his job at the warehouse last month. This is the first I'm hearing about it. So he's been lying about going to work every morning. He's been looking for something new. You know how the job market is for young people. I stare at my brother-in-law, realizing that Tyler's entitlement didn't develop in a vacuum. David, I don't care if he's having a tough time. That doesn't give him the right to block my driveway. Maybe you could park on the street sometimes. Just until he gets back on his feet. The suggestion hits me like a slap. Park on the street. In front of my own house. Because my nephew can't be bothered to show basic respect. Get off my property, I say quietly. Mike, come on. Get off my property before I say something that damages our relationship permanently. David leaves, and I stand on my porch watching Tyler's truck already positioned across my driveway for tomorrow morning's performance. Through his window, I can see the blue glow of his TV and hear him laughing at something. That's when I see it, the "for sale" sign in the yard behind Tyler's rental. The house backs right up to his property line, separated only by a chain-link fence. Suddenly, I'm not angry anymore. I'm smiling. The real estate agent's name is Patricia, and she has the kind of aggressive enthusiasm that makes me suspect she hasn't had a sale in months. When I call about the house behind Tyler's rental, she practically vibrates through the phone. Oh, you're going to love this property. It's been on the market for 6 weeks, and between you and me, the sellers are getting a little anxious. When can we schedule a showing? How about this afternoon? Perfect. I'll meet you there at 2. I take a long lunch from the construction site, telling my foreman I have a family emergency. It's not exactly a lie, Tyler has definitely created a family emergency, just not the kind anyone would expect. The house is smaller than mine, a modest 2-bedroom ranch that's seen better days. But location is everything in real estate, and this location is perfect. The backyard shares a fence line with Tyler's rental property, giving me a clear view of his back door, his parking area, and most importantly, his daily routine. Patricia chatters about square footage and recent renovations while I pretend to care about the kitchen cabinets. What I'm really focused on is the sight lines and the property boundaries. Now, I have to be honest, Patricia says as we walk through the master bedroom, the sellers are motivated. They've already moved to Florida and they're carrying 2 mortgages. I think there's room for negotiation on the asking price. The asking price is $180,000, almost exactly what I have in my savings and retirement account combined. It would wipe me out financially, but as I stand at the back window watching Tyler emerge from his house to grab something from his truck, I realize this isn't about money anymore. This is about justice. What kind of negotiation room are we talking about? I ask. Patricia's eyes light up like slot machine wheels. Well, what did you have in mind? Before I can answer, my phone buzzes with a text from my site foreman, *, where are you? Electrical inspector is here early and needs to talk to you, *. Shit. Patricia, I need to get back to work, but I'm very interested. Can I call you tonight? Absolutely. But Mike, can I give you some advice? In this market, when you find the right property, you don't want to wait too long. I have another showing scheduled for tomorrow. She's probably lying, but it doesn't matter. I've already made my decision. That evening, as I'm researching mortgage options and calculating payments, Tyler provides the perfect motivation. Not only is his truck blocking my driveway again, but he's apparently having some kind of party. Music pumps from his house, and I count at least 8 cars parked along the street and in his yard. At 11 p.m., I call the non-emergency police line to file a noise complaint. The officer who shows up looks like he'd rather be dealing with actual crime, and after a brief conversation with Tyler, the music drops to a barely tolerable level. But Tyler's not done. An hour later, the music's back up, and when I look out my window, I see him and his friend standing in his driveway, pointing at my house and laughing. One of them, a kid with face tattoos who looks like he's never worked an honest day in his life, walks over and deliberately kicks my garbage can, sending trash across my lawn. I call the police again. This time, the same officer looks annoyed with me instead of Tyler. Sir, unless you see them actually vandalizing your property, there's not much we can do about them standing in their own driveway. What about the garbage can? Did you see him kick it? Yes. Can you prove it? And there it is, the moment I realize that playing by the rules is a game Tyler will always win. He's young, connected to family that enables him, and skilled at staying just inside the boundaries of what's technically legal while making my life hell. As the officer drives away and Tyler's friends high-five each other like they've just won some kind of victory, I pick up my phone and call Patricia. I want to make an offer. The next 48 hours blur together in a whirlwind of phone calls, paperwork, and the kind of financial decisions that would normally keep me awake at night. Instead, I sleep better than I have in months, sustained by the sweet dream of Tyler's face when he realizes what's coming. My offer of $165,000 gets accepted within 6 hours. The sellers are so desperate to close that they agree to an expedited timeline, 3 weeks instead of the usual month or more. Patricia keeps gushing about how this is the fastest deal she's ever put together, but I suspect she's just happy to finally make a commission. The mortgage approval process, however, proves more complicated than Patricia's enthusiasm led me to believe. Mr. Henderson, the loan officer says during our meeting, your debt-to-income ratio is aggressive. You're essentially borrowing against your entire financial future for this property. I understand the risks. Do you? Because if you lose your job or have any major expenses, you'll be looking at foreclosure within months. And at your age, rebuilding your retirement savings. I cut him off. What do I need to do to make this happen? He slides a stack of documents across his desk. We'll need 3 months of bank statements, tax returns, employment verification, and a cosigner. My stomach drops. A cosigner? Given the loan amount relative to your assets, yes. Someone with good credit and stable income who's willing to guarantee the debt. This is a complication I hadn't anticipated. My credit is decent, but not great. My income from the construction company is steady but not spectacular. And asking someone to co-sign a loan so I can exact revenge on my nephew isn't exactly a conversation I'm looking forward to. That afternoon brings another gift from Tyler. I arrive home to find not just his truck blocking my driveway, but 2 of his friends' cars parked in my yard. Actually in my yard, with tire tracks cutting deep gouges in the grass I spent all last summer trying to restore. I march over to Tyler's house and pound on the door. When he answers, I can smell marijuana wafting out behind him, and his eyes are bloodshot and glazed. Your friends are parked in my yard. Tyler squints past me at the cars like he's seeing them for the first time. Huh. Weird. Get them moved. Now. Okay, chill out, Uncle Mike. We'll move them in a few minutes. Not in a few minutes. Now. That's when one of his friends appears behind him, the same face tattoo kid who kicked my garbage can. Who is this guy, Tyler? My uncle. He's the one I told you about who freaks out over parking. Face tattoo kid looks me up and down with the kind of disrespect that makes my hands curl into fists. Maybe uncle needs to learn some patience. I take a step forward. Maybe you need to learn some respect for other people's property. Mike. Tyler steps between us, suddenly looking nervous. It's cool, we'll move the cars. But face tattoo kid isn't done. Nah, Tyler, why should we? It's just grass. It'll grow back. That's when I notice something that makes my blood run cold. Through the open door, I can see into Tyler's living room, and there's drug paraphernalia on his coffee table. Not just marijuana, something that requires pipes and small baggies. If Tyler's dealing drugs out of his rental property, this situation just became exponentially more complicated. The house I'm buying backs right up to what might be a drug operation, which could affect everything from property values to my personal safety. But it also gives me leverage I didn't have before. You know what? I say, pulling out my phone and taking a photo of their license plates and the tire tracks in my yard. Take your time moving those cars. I've got some calls to make. Tyler's face goes pale. Uncle Mike, wait. 3 weeks, I say, looking directly at face tattoo kid. Enjoy them. I walk away feeling Tyler's stare burning into my back, knowing I've just declared war. The question is, am I ready for what comes next? The next morning brings a new level of petty warfare that would be impressive if it weren't so infuriating. Tyler's truck isn't just blocking my driveway, it's positioned at such an angle that I can't even walk around it without stepping into the street. When I knock on his door at 7 a.m. sharp, nobody answers, despite the fact that I can hear movement inside and see lights on. I call his phone. It goes straight to voicemail. 20 minutes of pounding on his door and calling his name finally produces results, but not the ones I want. Tyler emerges looking like he just rolled out of bed, moving with deliberate slowness that screams retaliation. Oh, hey Uncle Mike. Sorry, I was in the shower. His hair is completely dry. Tyler, I cannot be late again today. I've got an inspection at 8:30, and if I'm not there. Yeah, I hear you. He stretches dramatically, takes his time finding his keys, then spends another 5 minutes adjusting his mirrors and seat position. By the time he finally moves his truck, I'm already 30 minutes behind schedule. But as he's pulling away, Tyler rolls down his window with that familiar smirk. Oh, by the way, Uncle Mike. You might want to check your mailbox. My stomach drops. Inside the mailbox, I find a formal complaint letter addressed to the city's code enforcement office, filed against me. According to the document, an anonymous neighbor has reported multiple violations on my property, an unpermitted shed, improper drainage, and overgrown vegetation creating a public nuisance. Every single allegation is complete bullshit, but that doesn't matter. Code enforcement will still have to investigate, which means inspections, paperwork, and potentially expensive remediation work to satisfy bureaucrats who've never swung a hammer in their lives. The shed has been on my property for 15 years and was properly permitted. I have the paperwork to prove it, somewhere in my filing cabinet, buried under a decade of other documents I'll now have to dig through. The drainage works perfectly, Tyler's just describing the natural slope of my yard. And the overgrown vegetation is a small wildflower garden my late wife planted that I can't bring myself to remove. Tyler has figured out how to weaponize the system against me. I call Patricia from the job site during my lunch break, my hands shaking with rage. How's that cosigner situation coming along? She asks cheerfully. I'm working on it. But Patricia, I need to know, is there any way to expedite this process even more? Well, if you could come up with a larger down payment, that might eliminate the cosigner requirement. How much additional cash could you put together? The honest answer is zero. I'm already liquidating everything I have. But as I watch my phone buzz with another call from the code enforcement office, desperation breeds creativity. What if I could get a private loan for part of it? From a family member? Banks love to see family support for first-time investment properties. Family support. The irony would be hilarious if it weren't so crushing. That evening, I swallow my pride and call my sister Rebecca. After 20 minutes of small talk and careful diplomatic maneuvering, I finally work up the courage to ask. Beck, I need a favor. A big one. Of course, Mike. You know I'd do anything for you. I need to borrow $30,000. The silence stretches so long I wonder if the call dropped. Mike, what's going on? Are you in some kind of trouble? I can't tell her the truth, that I'm borrowing money to buy a house specifically to make her son's life miserable. So I go with a version that's technically accurate. I found an investment property. Good neighborhood, below market value, but I need to move fast or I'll lose it. 30,000 is. Mike, that's a lot of money. David and I would have to take it out of the kids' college funds. The kids. Tyler's younger siblings who actually deserve parents who invest in their futures. Never mind, I say quickly. It was just a thought. No, wait. Let me talk to David. Maybe we can work something out. Can you give me a few days? After we hang up, I sit in my kitchen staring at the code enforcement letter and feeling like the walls are closing in. Through my window, I can see Tyler in his backyard, grilling something and laughing with the same friends who parked in my yard. He raises a beer bottle in my direction when he notices me watching, a mocking toast to his tactical victory. That's when my phone rings with a number I don't recognize. Mr. Henderson. This is Detective Morrison with the county sheriff's office. I understand you filed a report about possible drug activity in your neighborhood. My heart pounds. I never called the police about drugs. I only took photos of the license plates and mentioned making calls as a bluff. I'm sorry, detective, but I think there's been some confusion. Sir, we take drug allegations very seriously. I'd like to schedule a time to come by and discuss what you've observed. Would tomorrow evening work for you? I realize what's happened. Someone, probably Tyler or one of his friends, has filed a false police report claiming I accused them of drug dealing. Now I'm caught in a web of official investigations that could backfire spectacularly. Detective, I think there may have been a misunderstanding. Mr. Henderson, filing false reports is a serious offense. I strongly suggest we have this conversation in person. As I hang up, Tyler appears at his back fence, still holding his beer, still smiling. He's not just fighting back anymore. He's trying to destroy me. The meeting with Detective Morrison goes exactly as badly as I expected. He's a thin, serious man with the kind of mustache that went out of style in the 80s and the suspicious eyes of someone who's heard every lie in the book. Mr. Henderson, we have a complaint that you've been making false accusations about drug activity against your neighbors. That's a serious allegation. I sit across from him at my kitchen table, acutely aware that Tyler's truck is once again parked across my driveway, visible through the window behind the detective's head. The positioning feels deliberate, Tyler's daily reminder of who's really in control here. Detective, I never filed any report about drugs. Someone must have misunderstood. So you're saying you never threatened to call police about suspicious activity next door? The question is a trap, and we both know it. I may have mentioned calling police in the context of parking violations and property damage, but I never accused anyone of drug dealing. Morrison makes a note that probably says something like, subject is backpedaling. Then he leans forward with the expression of a man who's about to drop a bomb. Mr. Henderson, are you aware that your nephew has filed a restraining order request against you? The words hit me like a physical blow. What? Tyler Mitchell claims you've been harassing him, threatening him, and engaging in what he calls stalking behavior. He says you take photos of his property, bang on his door at all hours, and have made threats about making his life difficult. Every accusation is technically true but completely stripped of context. Yes, I take photos of my blocked driveway. Yes, I knock on his door to ask him to move his truck so I can get to work. And yes, I may have made some comments about consequences, but that was after months of him treating me like dirt on his shoe. Detective, Tyler has been blocking my driveway every single day for 4 months. I have documentation. Sir, parking disputes are civil matters. Harassment and threats are criminal ones. The detective slides a document across my table. It's a temporary restraining order that prohibits me from approaching Tyler's property, contacting him directly, or engaging in any behavior that could be construed as intimidating or threatening. I stare at the paper, feeling my entire plan crumbling around me. If I can't even talk to Tyler, how am I supposed to manage the situation once I own the house behind him? More importantly, how am I going to survive the next 3 weeks until closing without being able to address the parking situation at all? This is insane, I mutter. Mr. Henderson, I strongly suggest you take this seriously. Violating a restraining order is a felony. That means jail time. After Morrison leaves, I call Patricia in a panic. We have a problem. What kind of problem? The legal kind. If I can't close on this house in the next 3 weeks, I'm going to lose my mind. Patricia's cheerful real estate agent voice takes on a note of concern. Mike, are you having second thoughts? Because if there are legal issues affecting your ability to qualify for the mortgage. No legal issues with the mortgage. This is personal. But even as I say it, I wonder if that's true. If Tyler escalates this restraining order situation, if he manages to get me arrested for something, that would definitely affect my mortgage approval. The bank isn't going to lend money to someone with pending criminal charges. I spend the rest of the evening researching restraining orders and discovering that Tyler has played this perfectly. The threshold for getting a temporary order is surprisingly low, basically just his word against mine. The hearing for a permanent order isn't scheduled for 6 weeks, which means I'm stuck with these restrictions right through the house closing. Meanwhile, Tyler seems to be celebrating his legal victory. The music from his house is louder than usual, and I count at least 12 cars parked in various illegal configurations around his property. But I can't call the police, can't document anything, can't even step outside without worrying that some neighbor will report me for violating the restraining order. My phone buzzes with a text from Rebecca. David and I talked about the loan. We can do $15,000, but we need to know more details about this investment property. Can you come over this weekend? $15,000 isn't enough to eliminate the co-signer requirement, but it might be enough to convince the bank to move forward. The problem is explaining to Rebecca why I need the money without revealing that I'm using it to wage war against her son. As I'm crafting a response, another text comes through from an unknown number. Hope you're enjoying the taste of your own medicine, Uncle Mike. This is just the beginning. Tyler isn't just winning anymore. He's gloating. And despite the restraining order, despite the financial complications, despite everything that could go wrong, I find myself more determined than ever to see this through. The question is whether I can survive the next 3 weeks without doing something that lands me in jail. The mortgage underwriter calls me at 6:47 a.m. on a Tuesday, which immediately tells me this isn't going to be good news. Mr. Henderson, we've encountered some complications with your loan application. I'm standing in my kitchen, watching Tyler load cases of beer into his truck while completely blocking my driveway, and I have to bite my tongue to keep from screaming into the phone. What kind of complications? Well, first, there's the matter of this restraining order that appeared in your background check. Our legal department has some concerns about lending to someone involved in ongoing litigation. My coffee cup nearly slips from my hand. That's a temporary civil matter. It has nothing to do with my ability to pay a mortgage. Perhaps, but there's also the issue of the code enforcement liens that were filed against your current property yesterday. The what? 3 separate violations, totaling $8,400 in potential fines. The city has placed a lien on your property pending resolution. This significantly impacts your debt-to-income ratio and your available collateral. I sink into a chair, watching Tyler now washing his truck in the street, taking his sweet time while water runs directly into my storm drain. The little bastard has turned my own property into a weapon against me. How long do I have to resolve this? The lien issue? Our underwriting committee meets Thursday. If those liens aren't cleared by then, we'll have to decline the application. Thursday. 2 days to fight city bureaucracy that moves at the speed of geological formations. And if I clear the liens, then we still need that cosigner we discussed, or an additional $20,000 down payment. After hanging up, I spend the next hour on hold with the code enforcement office, listening to tinny classical music while Tyler and his friends turn washing his truck into some kind of social event. They're being deliberately loud, obviously performing for my benefit, since the restraining order means I can't even go outside to document their latest provocation. When I finally reach a human being at the city, the news gets worse. Mr. Henderson, I show 3 active violations on your property. The shed issue can be resolved if you can produce the original permits, but our inspector noted structural concerns that may require additional engineering reports. What structural concerns? It's been standing fine for 15 years. I can't speak to the inspector's specific findings, but there's also the drainage issue. Our environmental compliance officer determined that runoff from your property is impacting the municipal storm system. I look out at my perfectly normal yard with its perfectly normal slope, wondering how Tyler managed to convince a city inspector that basic topography constitutes an environmental hazard. And the vegetation violation? Failure to maintain landscaping according to municipal standards. The inspector noted several plants that exceed height restrictions and may pose fire hazards. My wife's wildflower garden. They want me to destroy my wife's memorial garden because Tyler filed a complaint. What's the process for appealing these violations? You can request a hearing, but the earliest available date is 6 weeks out. In the meantime, the liens remain active. 6 weeks. Well past my closing date, well past any chance of buying the house that would give me leverage over Tyler's reign of terror. As I'm processing this catastrophe, Rebecca calls. Mike, I've been thinking about that loan you need. David and I want to help, but we're concerned about some things we've been hearing. My stomach clenches. What kind of things? Well, Tyler mentioned that you two have been having some conflicts. And then David ran into Detective Morrison at the grocery store yesterday. Of course. In a town this small, everyone talks to everyone, and Tyler's version of events is spreading like wildfire through my family. Beck, whatever Tyler told you. He says you've been harassing him. Taking pictures of his house, threatening him. Mike, that doesn't sound like you, but the restraining order. You know about the restraining order? The whole family knows. Tyler's scared, Mike. He says you've been acting erratic ever since you found out about his money troubles, and he's worried you might do something drastic. Money troubles. Tyler's spinning his unemployment and possible drug dealing as a sympathetic backstory, positioning himself as the victim of his unstable uncle's harassment campaign. Rebecca, none of that is true. Then why is there a restraining order? Why are the police involved? I can't answer without explaining the whole situation, and explaining the whole situation means admitting I'm planning to spend my life savings on revenge against her son. It's complicated. Mike, David, and I have decided we can't make that loan right now. Not with all this legal drama. We have to think about our own family. After she hangs up, I sit in my kitchen watching Tyler celebrate what's obviously another victory. He's gathered his friends around his truck, and they're all looking toward my house, raising beer bottles in mock salute. My mortgage is dying. My property is under siege by city bureaucrats. My family thinks I'm having some kind of breakdown. And Tyler knows exactly what he's doing. But as I watch him perform his victory dance, I notice something he probably doesn't think I can see from my kitchen window. Behind his house, there's a moving truck. Someone's moving out of the rental property next to my target house. Which means there's about to be another vacancy in Tyler's immediate vicinity. Tyler may have won this battle, but he just gave me an idea for a whole different kind of war. The moving truck behind Tyler's house turns out to be even better than I hoped. It's not just the house next to my target property, it's a duplex, and both units are being vacated. By Thursday afternoon, there are 2 for rent signs planted in the front yard like flags marking new territory. I call the property management company from my truck during lunch break, using a voice I haven't deployed since my army days, confident, decisive, and completely fabricated. I'm interested in both units of the duplex on Maple Street. I'd like to rent them immediately. The property manager, a woman named Carol who sounds like she's running this operation out of her kitchen, perks up immediately. Both units? That's unusual. Are you looking at this for a large family or investment property? I plan to sublet them to carefully screened tenants. The lie comes so easily it surprises me. I can pay 6 months up front for both units if we can expedite the process. 6 months rent on both units would cost me nearly $18,000, money I absolutely don't have. But I learned a long time ago that acting like you have resources often creates opportunities to actually get them. Well, that's certainly attractive. When would you like to see them? This afternoon if possible. The units are perfect for my purposes. Not because they're particularly nice, they're both outdated and smell faintly of cat litter, but because they offer something money can't usually buy, strategic positioning. The duplex sits on the corner, giving me sight lines to Tyler's house from multiple angles and, more importantly, control over who becomes his new neighbors. As Carol walks me through the second unit, explaining the lease terms and deposit requirements, my phone buzzes with a text from Patricia, *Mike, the sellers are getting nervous about the delayed closing. They're asking if you want to extend the contract or if they should consider other offers, *. Other offers. The house I've been planning to buy for weeks might slip through my fingers because Tyler managed to sabotage my financing with surgical precision. Carol, I interrupt, what would it take to get both leases signed today? She blinks. Today. Well, we'd need references, background check, proof of income, first month's rent plus deposits. What if I could give you 12 months up front? Cash. The number comes out of my mouth before my brain can stop it. 12 months rent on both units would be over $30,000, more than my annual salary after taxes. But Carol's expression shifts from polite interest to pure hunger. Cash. Well, that would certainly simplify things. We could probably skip some of the usual verification processes. My phone rings. It's Jim, my lawyer friend. Mike, I've been looking into that restraining order situation. We need to talk. Can it wait an hour? Not really. I found out who's been feeding information to Tyler's legal team, and you're not going to like it. I excuse myself from Carol and step outside. What do you mean? Your sister Rebecca. She's been in contact with the kid's lawyer, sharing details about your erratic behavior and financial desperation. She's trying to help, but she's actually building their case for making the restraining order permanent. The betrayal hits me like cold water. My own sister is unknowingly helping Tyler destroy me, probably thinking she's staging some kind of family intervention. Jim, how bad is this? Bad. They're painting a picture of a middle-aged man having a breakdown, making poor financial decisions, and fixating on his younger relative. If they can prove you're liquidating assets to fund some kind of revenge scheme. That's exactly what I'm doing. Mike, please tell me you're not serious. I look back at the duplex, then across the street at Tyler's house where his truck is, predictably, blocking my driveway again. Even from here, I can see him moving around in his backyard, probably preparing for another night of parties and deliberate provocation. I'm dead serious. And Jim. I need to borrow $30,000. The silence stretches long enough that I wonder if he hung up. Mike, as your friend and as a lawyer, I'm telling you to walk away from whatever this is. You're about to destroy your life over a parking dispute. But as Tyler emerges from his house and waves mockingly in my direction, somehow knowing I'm watching him even from 3 blocks away, I realize it stopped being about parking a long time ago. This is about power. About respect. About proving that actions have consequences. Carol, I call out, walking back toward the duplex, let's talk about that cash deal. The cash deal with Carol falls apart spectacularly when my bank informs me that withdrawing $30,000 in cash triggers federal reporting requirements and a mandatory holding period. Apparently, the government gets nervous when middle-aged construction workers suddenly need large amounts of untraceable money. Mr. Henderson, the bank manager explains with barely concealed suspicion, we can process this withdrawal, but it will take 5 business days and require documentation of the intended use. Documentation. The last thing I need is a paper trail leading to my revenge plot. What about a cashier's check? That we can do today, but the recipient will know exactly where the funds originated. Which means Carol will have my real name, my bank information, and a clear record of me renting property specifically to surround Tyler. If this ever goes to court, and given the restraining order, it probably will, that's evidence of premeditation. I'm standing in the bank parking lot, recalculating my options, when Tyler himself drives past. He's not alone, there's a woman in his passenger seat I don't recognize, and she's laughing at something he's saying while pointing directly at me. He's turned me into entertainment. A story he tells to impress people about his crazy uncle who lost his mind over parking spaces. My phone buzzes with another call from Patricia. Mike, I hate to pressure you, but the sellers have received another offer. It's lower than yours, but it's all cash, no financing contingencies. They're giving you until tomorrow to either close or release them from the contract. Tomorrow. 24 hours to solve problems that have been building for weeks. Patricia, what if I could match their terms? All cash, no mortgage. Do you have that kind of liquidity? Because Mike, we're talking about $165,000. I don't. But as I watch Tyler's truck disappear around the corner, probably heading back to block my driveway for the evening show, an idea forms that's either brilliant or completely insane. My house is worth about $240,000, and I own it free and clear. If I could get a home equity loan against my current property, I could fund the purchase without going through mortgage underwriting. The lien issues wouldn't matter because I'd be borrowing against equity, not trying to qualify for a new mortgage. Patricia, give me until end of business tomorrow. I'm going to make this work. But when I call my bank about a home equity line of credit, I run into another Tyler-shaped obstacle. Mr. Henderson, we show 3 active liens against your property totaling $8,400. We can't approve a credit line until those are resolved. Those liens are bogus. I'm appealing them. I understand, sir, but until they're officially cleared, they represent potential claims against the property. It's a liability issue. I hang up and immediately call the code enforcement office, prepared to grovel if necessary. This is Mike Henderson. I need to schedule emergency inspections to clear some violations on my property. Sir, our next available inspection date is 3 weeks out. We're very backed up. 3 weeks. This is an emergency. Is there an immediate safety hazard? Structural collapse? Gas leak? No, but... Then it's not an emergency, sir. Tyler has weaponized bureaucracy itself against me. Every system I try to use, every official channel I attempt to navigate, has been poisoned by his initial complaints. I'm fighting a war on multiple fronts against an enemy who's had weeks to prepare the battlefield. That evening, as I'm researching private lenders and hard money loans with interest rates that would make a loan shark blush, Tyler provides the final insult. Not only is his truck blocking my driveway, but he set up a barbecue grill in my yard. Actually in my yard. On my grass. 20 feet from my front door. He's not even trying to hide it anymore. The restraining order has made me powerless to stop him, and he knows it. Through my kitchen window, I watch him flip burgers while his friends drink beer and toss trash onto my lawn. One of them is using my garden hose without permission. Another has parked a motorcycle against my mailbox. And Tyler sees me watching. He raises a spatula in mock salute, grins, and mouths words I can read clearly. What are you gonna do about it? That's when I realize the truth. Tyler isn't just trying to win anymore. He's trying to make me snap. Looking at Tyler mouthing, what are you gonna do about it, while standing on my own property, something clicks into place in my mind. He's not just escalating randomly, he's following a script. The restraining order, the code enforcement complaints, the systematic destruction of my financing options. This isn't the impulsive behavior of a spoiled 22-year-old. Someone's coaching him. I grab my laptop and start researching Tyler's supposed legal team. The lawyer listed on the restraining order paperwork is Marcus Webb, a name I don't recognize. His website shows a practice specializing in tenant rights and harassment cases, with a lot of emphasis on protecting young adults from family intimidation. Family intimidation. That phrase is too specific to be coincidental. I dig deeper and find something interesting. Webb's firm has handled 6 similar cases in the past year, all involving older relatives allegedly harassing younger family members over property disputes. The pattern is identical: parking complaints escalate to restraining orders, then civil suits for emotional distress and interference with peaceful enjoyment of property. Tyler isn't just being coached, he's following a playbook designed to extract money from family members who can't afford prolonged legal battles. My phone rings. It's my foreman from the construction site. Mike, we've got a problem. Someone called OSHA claiming you've been operating equipment while mentally unstable and might be a danger to the crew. The blood drains from my face. Someone called OSHA about me personally. Anonymous tip. They're sending an inspector tomorrow morning. Mike, what the hell is going on? I've got guys asking if they should request transfers because they're worried about working with you. OSHA. Tyler's not just attacking my personal finances anymore, he's going after my livelihood. If an OSHA inspector determines I'm unfit for duty, I could lose my job, my income, and any chance of securing loans or fighting back. Boss, this is connected to some family issues I'm dealing with. The complaint is completely false. I hope so, Mike, because if OSHA finds any safety violations while they're here investigating you, it could shut down the whole project. We're talking about 40 guys out of work and $250,000 in delays. After he hangs up, I sit staring at Tyler's barbecue setup in my yard, understanding the full scope of what I'm facing. This isn't just about buying a house for revenge anymore. Tyler's systematic campaign is designed to leave me unemployed, broke, and legally powerless, probably so I'll agree to some kind of cash settlement to make it all go away. The smart play would be to surrender. Apologize, pay whatever he's asking, and hope he gets bored and moves on to easier targets. Instead, I call my brother-in-law David directly. Mike. Rebecca said she talked to you about the loan situation. Look, we're just trying to. David, I need you to listen very carefully. Your son is being coached by a lawyer who specializes in shaking down family members. This isn't about parking or harassment, it's a con game, and Tyler's the front man. Silence. Mike, that's a pretty serious accusation. Marcus Webb. Look him up. Look at his other cases. Then ask yourself how an unemployed 22-year-old suddenly developed the sophistication to file strategic code enforcement complaints and coordinate legal attacks across multiple agencies. Tyler's just protecting himself. From what? From me asking him not to block my driveway. David, he's literally grilling burgers in my front yard right now while his friends throw trash on my lawn. Through my window, I watch Tyler flip a burger and laugh with his friends, completely confident in his untouchability. David, how much money has Tyler asked your family for in the past 6 months? Another long silence. That's not really your business, Mike. But his tone tells me everything I need to know. Tyler's been working this angle on multiple family members simultaneously, using legal pressure on me to demonstrate how serious his harassment claims are. Ask Rebecca to check her credit report, I say quietly. Ask her when Tyler last had access to personal information about your finances. I hang up and watch Tyler raise another mocking toast in my direction. Two can play the research game. The OSHA inspector arrives at my job site at 7 a.m. sharp, a clipboard-wielding woman named Janet who looks like she's never been within 50 feet of actual construction work. She makes a beeline for me while I'm reviewing blueprints with my crew, and I can feel every eye on the site watching this unfold. Mr. Henderson. I'm here about a safety complaint filed against you personally. The way she says it, loud enough for half the crew to hear, tells me this is going to be a public humiliation designed to destroy my reputation. My foreman shoots me a look that says, fix this fast, while the younger guys start whispering among themselves. What specific safety violations am I supposed to have committed? Janet flips through her paperwork with theatrical precision. Operating heavy machinery while under emotional distress. Engaging in erratic behavior that creates workplace hazards. Making threatening statements about coworkers and supervisors. Every accusation is vague enough to be impossible to disprove but specific enough to sound credible. I realize Tyler's lawyer probably coached him on exactly what language to use to trigger a full investigation. Ma'am, I've been operating equipment safely for over 20 years. My safety record is spotless. We'll see about that. I'll need to observe you operating machinery today, interview your coworkers about your recent behavior, and review any incident reports from the past 6 months. As Janet begins her inspection, I notice something that makes my stomach drop. She's not just randomly checking my work, she's following a checklist, looking for specific violations in specific places. Someone fed her information about our job site protocols. During my lunch break, I call the one person who might have answers, my nephew's ex-girlfriend, Sarah. She dated Tyler for 8 months before things ended badly last year, and if anyone knows his patterns, it's her. Uncle Mike. God, I haven't heard from you in forever. How's everything? Sarah, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. When you were dating Tyler, did he ever talk about making money from family members? The pause tells me everything. Mike, what's Tyler done now? Just answer the question. Please. There was this lawyer he met at some party. Marcus something. Tyler was bragging about how the guy showed him ways to monetize family drama. I thought he was just being his usual jackass self. Monetize family drama. What exactly did Tyler tell you about this? He said older relatives were easy targets because they have assets but hate conflict. Something about pushing them just hard enough to make them pay to make problems go away. Mike, he didn't. He's not trying this on you, is he? Before I can answer, Janet appears at my truck window. Mr. Henderson, I need to see you operate the excavator now. I spend the next hour performing routine excavation work while Janet watches every move, taking notes and photos. She's clearly looking for any excuse to write me up, checking that I signal before backing up, that I maintain proper distance from other workers, that I follow lockout procedures to the letter. But here's the thing about having 20 years of experience, you don't make rookie mistakes when someone's watching. My performance is flawless, and Janet's growing frustration is obvious. Mr. Henderson, several anonymous sources have reported concerning statements you've made about family members. What kind of statements? Threats of retaliation. Plans to make people pay for perceived slights. Tyler's turned my private conversations into evidence of workplace instability. But Janet's fishing expedition hits a snag when my foreman volunteers information she clearly wasn't expecting. Ma'am, Mike's been dealing with some punk nephew who's been making his life hell. If he said anything about retaliation, it's probably because the kid's been blocking his driveway and vandalizing his property. Hell, I'd be talking about payback too. Janet makes more notes, but her confidence seems shaken. I'll need to complete my full investigation before filing my report. That evening, I return home to find Tyler's latest escalation, a for sale sign planted in my front yard. Not his yard. My yard. The sign advertises my house for $50,000 below market value with Tyler's phone number listed as the contact. He's not just stealing my property anymore. He's actively trying to sabotage its value. Standing in my front yard at 6 p.m., staring at a for sale sign advertising my own house, I realize Tyler has crossed a line that transforms this from harassment into something that could actually be criminal. The sign lists my property for $195,000, a full $45,000 below market value, with Tyler's phone number in bold letters as the motivated seller. My phone is already buzzing. In the 20 minutes since I've been home, Tyler's fake listing has generated 6 calls from eager buyers who think they've found the deal of the century. Each conversation is more humiliating than the last. Hi, I'm calling about the house for sale on Oak Street. Is that price firm? Ma'am, that's not a legitimate listing. Oh, are you the neighbor? The listing agent said there might be some family drama but that the seller is very motivated to close quickly. Family drama. Tyler's turned my desperation into a selling point. By the 7th call, I've heard enough. Tyler has apparently been telling people that I'm going through a difficult divorce and need to liquidate assets immediately. He's created an entire fictional narrative to explain the below-market pricing, complete with stories about my unstable emotional state and urgent financial obligations. I march toward Tyler's house, then stop myself just short of his property line. The restraining order means I can't even approach his door to demand he remove the sign. Instead, I'm trapped watching him orchestrate the destruction of my reputation from a distance that satisfies legal requirements but does nothing to protect my sanity. That's when I notice the cars. 3 different vehicles have pulled up in the past hour, with people getting out to walk around my property, peering into windows and taking photos. Tyler's fake listing isn't just generating phone calls, it's bringing strangers onto my property who think they're looking at a legitimate sale. One couple is particularly aggressive, walking right up to my front windows and cupping their hands against the glass to see inside. When I come outside, they approach me with the casual entitlement of people who think they're talking to someone desperate to sell. Excuse me, are you the homeowner? We'd like to schedule a showing for tomorrow morning. This house isn't for sale. That sign is fraudulent. The husband looks confused, but the wife gets suspicious immediately. The listing agent said there might be some family conflict affecting the sale. Are you trying to interfere with your spouse's right to sell marital property? Spouse. Tyler's fictional divorce story is so detailed that strangers are now accusing me of domestic interference on my own property. I'm not married. I own this house outright. That listing is completely fake. But they're already backing away, clearly convinced they've stumbled into some kind of messy family situation that might complicate their potential purchase. As they drive off, I realize the genius of Tyler's strategy. Even when people learn the listing is fake, they assume there's some underlying legal drama that makes my property problematic. My phone rings. It's a real estate agent I don't recognize. Mr. Henderson, I represent a client interested in your Oak Street property. We're prepared to make a cash offer at asking price if we can close within 2 weeks. The house isn't for sale. Sir, I'm looking at an active MLS listing right now. Are you saying you want to withdraw from the market? MLS listing. Tyler hasn't just put up a yard sign, he's somehow got my property listed in the official multiple listing service that real estate agents use. This isn't amateur harassment anymore, this is sophisticated fraud that could take weeks to untangle through official channels. Who listed this property? Mitchell Realty Solutions. The agent of record is, let me see. Tyler Mitchell. Tyler has created his own fake real estate company. As I hang up, I watch him emerge from his house with that familiar smirk, walking directly to my property line where he stands just close enough to be infuriating while staying just far enough away to avoid violating his own restraining order. He's holding a folder full of papers, probably fake purchase agreements to go with his fake listing. Having a busy evening, Uncle Mike, he calls out, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. I hope you don't mind me helping with your sales process. Family should stick together, right? That's when I realize he's not just trying to steal my house or ruin my reputation. He's trying to prove he can manipulate every system that's supposed to protect me, and there's nothing I can do to stop him. But watching Tyler wave those fake documents like victory flags, I remember something Sarah mentioned about his pattern of monetizing family drama. If Tyler's following a playbook, that means he's done this before. And if he's done this before, that means there are other victims who might be very interested in comparing notes. Looking at Tyler's fake real estate empire, I realize I need to find his other victims, and fast. But first, I have to deal with the immediate crisis of strangers crawling all over my property thinking it's for sale. I call the police non-emergency line, explaining that someone has fraudulently listed my house without permission. The officer who takes my report sounds bored until I mention the restraining order situation. So you're saying the person who filed harassment charges against you is now listing your house for sale without authorization? Exactly. Sir, this sounds like a civil dispute between family members. Unless you can prove actual financial damages. More bureaucratic dead ends. Tyler's restraining order has poisoned every official channel I might use for help. To the police, this looks like a crazy uncle escalating conflict with his nephew, not a victim reporting fraud. After hanging up in frustration, I decide to take matters into my own hands. If Tyler's following a pattern, then Marcus Webb's other cases should show similar tactics. I spend the next 3 hours researching court records, looking for Webb's previous clients and their family situations. What I find is worse than I imagined. Webb has represented 12 different, young adults, in harassment cases against older relatives over the past 2 years. The pattern is always the same: parking or property disputes escalate to restraining orders, followed by systematic attacks on the older relative's finances, employment, and reputation. In 8 of the 12 cases, the older relative eventually agreed to cash settlements ranging from $15,000 to $85,000. But here's the interesting part: in 3 cases where the older relatives fought back instead of settling, Webb suddenly withdrew from representation, and his clients dropped their complaints entirely. Tyler's operation only works against people who can be intimidated into paying. I start making phone calls to Webb's former targets, introducing myself as someone facing similar tactics. The first 2 numbers are disconnected, but the third call hits jackpot. Hello, this is Robert Chin. Mr. Chin, my name is Mike Henderson. I believe we may have both been targeted by Marcus Webb and his clients. Did your case involve a younger relative making harassment claims? Long pause. How did you get this number? Court records. Mr. Chen, I'm dealing with the exact same playbook your nephew used. Fake code violations, OSHA complaints, fraudulent property listings. Jesus Christ. You too. Robert's story is almost identical to mine, except his nephew claimed Robert was financially abusing him by refusing to co-sign apartment leases and car loans. The harassment campaign lasted 8 months and cost Robert his job, his credit rating, and eventually $40,000 in settlement payments. The worst part, Robert tells me, is that my family still thinks I was the problem. My nephew convinced everyone I was having some kind of breakdown, and paying him off was the only way to get the help I needed. How did it finally end? I moved to another state. Changed jobs, sold my house, started over completely. It was easier than fighting. But Robert gives me something valuable, contact information for 2 other victims who fought back successfully. Margaret Stern's case ended when she hired a private investigator who discovered her granddaughter was running the same scam on 3 different relatives simultaneously. The evidence of coordinated fraud was enough to get criminal charges filed. Frank Morrison's nephew made the mistake of trying the fake property listing trick on a house that Frank had already sold. When the new owners got harassed by fake buyers, they pressed charges for interfering with their property rights. The key, Frank tells me, is getting them to make a mistake that crosses the line from civil harassment into actual criminal behavior. Webb's smart, he keeps his clients just inside the boundaries of what's technically legal. But eventually they get cocky and go too far. As we're talking, I watch through my window as Tyler sets up what appears to be an open house event in my driveway. He's arranged folding chairs and a card table, and people are actually showing up with clipboards and measuring tapes. Frank, what if they're literally holding fake open houses on your property? That's trespassing and fraud. Document everything. Call the police every time someone steps onto your property claiming to be there for a showing. Make it Tyler's problem to explain why he's sending people to trespass. I grab my phone and start recording as a young couple approaches Tyler's open house setup. They're clearly expecting a legitimate property tour, and Tyler's directing them toward my front door like he owns the place. This might finally be the mistake that brings him down. But as I'm filming, Tyler spots me and waves cheerfully. Then he pulls out his own phone and starts recording me recording him, probably building evidence for his harassment case. Even when he's breaking the law, Tyler's thinking 3 moves ahead. The question is, am I smart enough to outmaneuver him before he destroys what's left of my life? The fake open house in my driveway attracts more people than I expected. By 2 p.m., there are 8 cars parked along my street and a steady stream of potential buyers walking around my property with Tyler playing tour guide from the safety of the public sidewalk. I'm documenting everything from my kitchen window when my phone rings with a number I don't recognize. Mr. Henderson. This is Channel 7 News. We received a tip about an unusual real estate situation in your neighborhood. Would you be available for an interview? My stomach drops. What kind of tip? A story about family conflict affecting property sales. Apparently there's some dispute over a house listing that's creating quite a spectacle. Our reporter is actually in the area now. Through my window, I can see a news van pulling up across the street. Tyler has called the media to document his fake open house, probably spinning it as a story about an unstable uncle trying to interfere with legitimate real estate transactions. I watch in horror as a reporter approaches Tyler, who immediately launches into what's obviously a rehearsed performance. He's gesturing toward my house while maintaining the perfect balance of looking concerned and professional, the responsible young man trying to help his troubled uncle through a difficult time. The reporter nods sympathetically and takes notes while Tyler points out various features of his listing. Then she approaches the potential buyers, getting quotes about their interest in the property and their confusion about the family drama affecting the sale. My phone buzzes with a text from my sister Rebecca, *Mike, what the hell is going on? Someone just sent me a news story about you on Facebook, *. The story is already online. The headline reads, Family Feud Disrupts Local Real Estate Market. The article presents Tyler as a concerned nephew trying to help his uncle sell property while dealing with harassment and threats from a family member struggling with recent life changes. They interviewed 3 of the fake buyers, who all expressed sympathy for Tyler's difficult situation and praised his professionalism in handling such a challenging family dynamic. The reporter even got a quote from a neighbor describing me as increasingly erratic over the past few months. Tyler has weaponized local news coverage. But as I'm reading the online article, I notice something that gives me hope. The reporter included Tyler's fake company name, Mitchell Realty Solutions, and described him as a licensed real estate professional handling the family property. Tyler just claimed on camera that he's a licensed real estate agent. I immediately pull up the state licensing board website and search for Tyler Mitchell. No results. I search for Mitchell Realty Solutions. No registered business by that name. Tyler has just committed fraud on television. I call the state real estate commission and report someone conducting real estate business without a license. Then I call the city business licensing office and report an unregistered business operating in residential areas. Finally, I call the state attorney general's office and report consumer fraud. Within an hour, I have 3 different government agencies opening investigations into Tyler's fake real estate operation. But Tyler's not done with his media strategy. A second news van arrives, this one from Channel 12. Apparently Tyler called multiple stations to maximize coverage of his victim narrative. I watch him give essentially the same interview to the second reporter, complete with more praise for his professionalism from actors pretending to be buyers. But this time, something goes wrong. The second reporter asks Tyler for his real estate license number for their records. I can see his confident expression falter for just a moment before he recovers with some excuse about having the number back at the office. Then she asks for the official MLS listing number. Tyler fumbles through his fake paperwork, clearly stalling while trying to come up with an answer that won't immediately expose his fraud. I'll have to get back to you on those details, he finally says, his professional facade cracking slightly. The reporter makes a note that looks less sympathetic than her previous ones. And you're saying your uncle has been interfering with legitimate property showings? Absolutely. He's been harassing potential buyers, taking unauthorized photos, making threats. As Tyler talks, I notice Detective Morrison's patrol car pulling up behind the news vans. Someone, probably a neighbor tired of the circus, has called police about the crowd gathering on residential property. Tyler's fake open house is about to become a very real legal problem. And for the first time in weeks, I'm not the one who's going to be in trouble. Detective Morrison's arrival at Tyler's fake open house is like watching dominoes fall in slow motion. I position myself at my front window with my phone ready, documenting everything as the situation unravels. Morrison approaches the crowd first, his expression shifting from routine annoyance to genuine confusion as he surveys the scene. Tyler's still holding court with the second news crew, but I can see him notice the patrol car and his confident demeanor starts to crack. "Excuse me," Morrison calls out, "what's the nature of this gathering?" The Channel 12 reporter jumps at the chance for more drama. "Officer, we're covering a real estate story. This young man is showing his family's property to potential buyers." Morrison's eyes narrow as he looks from Tyler to my house, then back to Tyler. "Sir, do you have documentation showing you're authorized to conduct business on this property?" Tyler fumbles through his folder of fake papers, his media-ready smile faltering. "Well, it's a family situation, officer. I'm helping my uncle with the sale process." "Your uncle? Would that be Mike Henderson?" "Yes, but he's been difficult about the whole thing. You're familiar with our previous interactions." Morrison nods slowly, then does something Tyler clearly wasn't expecting. He walks over to my front door and knocks. I answer immediately. "Detective Morrison." "Mr. Henderson, are you selling your house?" "Absolutely not. I've never authorized any listing or showings. Everything you see out there is fraudulent." Morrison's expression hardens as the pieces click into place. He turns back toward Tyler, who's now looking genuinely panicked for the first time since this whole nightmare started. "Sir, I need to see your real estate license." Well, you see, the licensing situation is complicated." "It's not complicated. You either have a license to conduct real estate business or you don't." The crowd of fake buyers starts to disperse as they realize they're witnessing something that might end up requiring witness statements. The news crews, however, move closer with their cameras rolling. Tyler makes his fatal mistake. Instead of admitting the fraud and trying to minimize the damage, he doubles down. "Detective, this is harassment. My uncle has been threatening me for months, and now he's trying to sabotage legitimate business activities. This is exactly the kind of behavior the restraining order was meant to prevent." Morrison pulls out his notepad. "Legitimate business activities. So you're confirming that you've been operating as a real estate agent?" "I'm helping family with property management. By listing property that doesn't belong to you with fake contact information." That's when Tyler realizes he's walked into a trap, but it's too late. Morrison is already calling for backup while the Channel 12 reporter broadcasts live coverage of what she's now describing as a developing fraud investigation. The next hour is the sweetest revenge I could have imagined. Tyler gets arrested on charges of conducting business without a license, fraud, and criminal trespass. The fake buyers scatter once they realize they've been part of a scam. And the news crews pivot to covering Tyler's arrest instead of his victim narrative. But the real satisfaction comes 3 days later when Marcus Webb withdraws as Tyler's attorney. Without his legal coaching, Tyler's harassment campaign collapses entirely. The code enforcement liens mysteriously get resolved with a single phone call. The OSHA investigation closes with no findings. The restraining order gets dismissed when Tyler fails to appear for the permanent hearing. My mortgage application gets approved the following week, and I close on the house behind Tyler's rental property exactly as planned. But by then, Tyler's already moved out, evicted by his landlord after the fraud arrest made local news. Standing in the backyard of my new property, looking at Tyler's abandoned rental house, I realize I never needed elaborate revenge schemes or complex legal strategies. Sometimes the best way to defeat someone who's gaming the system is to simply let them keep playing until they game themselves right into handcuffs. The "for sale" sign is still planted in my front yard, but now it's evidence in a criminal case instead of a source of humiliation. And my driveway. It's finally, blissfully empty.